into executive session at 5:59 p.m. with a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Mr. Signor to review the employment history of employee number 09122018. And we then exited executive session approximately 6:26 p.m. with a motion by Mr. Guidarelli and a second by Mr. Signor, all voting in favor to exit executive session. So now what we'll do, we had already called the meeting to order, but we're going to go back through in a moment here as soon as Mr. Christou comes back out. Is this on? Hello?
I think so.
It doesn't seem like it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Is it? All right. I'll just talk louder.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
I know what to tell you. No, I know what the problem is. Very good. Come on. I know what the problem is. That's a lot of switch. Just go. All right.
There you go.
Okay. Oops, here it is.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Has to make an entrance.
Okay.
That was a recording.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so now we want to welcome everyone. Now we're back up at the dais and call this meeting for the special Rotterdam Town Board meeting of August 14, 2019 to order. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Present.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Present.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera? Present. Mr. Signor?
Present.
Mr. Tomaso?
Present.
5 present.
Could you all please stand for the pledge? And Samantha, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, we'll go right into public comment, privilege of the floor. Ms. Marco, do we have anybody for public comment? Privilege of the floor.
Steve Grandstep?
Steve?
Hi folks, good evening.
Good evening.
Grant staff from Rotterdam Junction.
I'm going to raise up the mic, Steve, I'm sorry. Raise the mic right up. Just raise it right up, yeah.
415 Sharon Drive, Rotterdam Junction. Just a couple of questions. I know usually when I ask questions, the horse has already left the barn because I'm catching myself up to speed. But my first question would be on the road work that's now a state project and going to happen along Route 5S with the sidewalks, etc. During the resolution, was there any provisions made for additional traffic controls? Do we know?
Okay, so so as far as additional traffic controls, what we had done, we had had a meeting with DOT about 2 months ago now, and that meeting was to talk a little bit about this future project, which is a 2020-2021 project. And also my desire, I spoke about this at the meeting in May a little bit, to put into place a plan that DOT now has to approve that they had asked us to put together, which has to do with, you want me to read that specifically? You want me to? So this was in the letter that went through. So mailing will be going out to residents in Pattersonville and Rotterdam Junction, and detailing why DOT and the town are seeking to reduce the speed on 5S to 40 miles per hour, while highlighting the educational enforcement piece of the three-pronged plan. We're going to engage with the neighborhoods, and both in the junction and Pattersonville. We'll have intermunicipal notification and cooperation with the town of Florida, and then meet with the fire departments to discuss the overall speed reduction plan. That will happen over the next several months, if you want. Okay, so
the speed limit's going down to 40 miles per hour.
It's more than that. You know, the speed, as you know, goes 55, 45, right. 35. It goes all over the place, and so I wanted 35. And the state came back with 40. So I'm very pleased with that personally. I'm very pleased with that. And we also will put in. We have monitoring devices about notifying people what their speed is.
Yep.
And those also capture data, so our police can use it for enforcement later. And we'll have stepped up enforcement, if you will, out there because of all this too. For 1 year, thank you. Yeah. So for 1 year, we'll be doing monitoring piece of it to get back there, but we'll go for. We're going to get hopefully the speed lowered to 40.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And my second question, no, it's not about Dollar General. It's not
It's all good. No, go ahead.
The second question would be the solar panels that you talked about here, the easement,
National Grid.
the motion that was just the easement. Is that near Pattersonville Telephone Company, did you say? I
Well,
couldn't hear that.
it's not near that. What happens is because they've got the lines there for our communications.
Okay.
So we need to provide an easement there because those poles that are there, and poles that may have to be installed there will allow for us to, carry, they'll have the easement to be able to carry their lines.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
your input.
Jack Dodson.
Good evening, Jack Dodson, 1311 Cipriano Terrace. Let's see, I have a couple items on my agenda for tonight. And I'm going to start off right now, and I'm going to preface my comments with the fact that I'm going to be general about this and not specific. So I'm going to start out with 24619 and the appointment of Kenna. And I want to just acknowledge the fact that Kenna has worked for the town before. And I'm pleased that the town is making an appointment to reinstate Kenna in a position for the town. Given the situation, I'd like the board and Supervisor Thomasone to be mindful of your actions and the impact of your decisions on the lives of town employees. I'm not going to pretend to know the reasons for the actions, but the optics look very poor for town employees, okay? The general public wouldn't have a clue about even what I'm talking about tonight because it's internal. If you work for the town or a family member of a town employee, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? I would believe that the town and town board and supervisor would encourage and boost morale for town employees. And I don't really see that in this situation. Keep in mind that town employees, when they're happy, they're productive. That would be my comment. And please consider, this advice for the future, again, is be mindful of the fact that you're dealing with a human being here, and you really should respect that. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Moving on. I'm going to move on to an agreement that, again, the town signed with the town of Gilderland. This is a water sale agreement, and I just have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask the board about it. There's two articles in this agreement, 15 and 16, that address the terms. 15 is the parties agree the cost of the permanent water supply shall be paid by Gilderland at the purchase rate of $3 per 1,000 gallons for the first 45 million gallons, okay? And that's on an annual basis, and I understand that. 16, the parties agree the cost of permanent water supply shall be paid by Gilderland at the purchase rate of $2.75 per 1,000 gallons in excess of 45 million gallons of water on an annual basis. And I guess my comment on that, and having negotiated many of these agreements myself, is what's missing in this agreement from my standpoint is the limit on how much they can take. Was there ever a consideration? I know we have a great water supply, great quantity of water, but it's not unlimited. And I also know that we're continuing to drill wells. And the first thing I'm asking myself when I'm reviewing this agreement is there's no limit on what they can take. And I guess I'm asking why that wasn't considered. In light of that, I'm also asking again is we know our water supply. We know our demands are very high in the summer months, again, June, July, and August. And I know the town has struggled in the past in keeping our water storage tanks full and providing proper pressure. And I didn't see anything in this agreement, again, that potentially would be able to limit. Other municipalities I work for, we meter. We actually have automated valves that allow us to control flow. None of that included in this agreement. Again, just some articles that I would generally see in an agreement like this that I think got passed over. Supervisor Thomasone knows my position relative to supply. I don't think the town has any issue with supply. Our issue is with demands. We just love to use water and the full amount of it, okay? I had a conversation again on metering. You can tell me all day long that metering's never going to come down to the town of Rotterdam, and I'm going to tell you you're wrong because it is coming to the town of Rotterdam at some point in time. And in light of that, I just want to move on to more items in this agenda.
Your time's almost up.
Yep, thank you.
30 seconds or so.
I'll be quick.
Yep.
I know that you guys are dealing with Helderberg Metals, the planned unit subdivision. There was a report done by Bartlett Judas here relative to interconnections of water. Great opportunity again for the town to loop the water system. They talk about looping or interconnection on Gents Road and Lucille Lane with an 8-inch. Interconnection to South Westcott Road and Dahlia Street with a 10-inch. And an interconnection of Dahlia Street and Miles Standish Road with a 10-inch. And they feel that the development of these interconnections, looping, should be discussed as part of this project and a review of this project. Is that being considered? And with that, I thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll answer some of those questions as we go through here. You know, let's not let facts get in the way of a good story or a good dialogue, if you will. Okay. So resolution 24619, please.
Appoint Kenneth Collins of Rotterdam, New York, 12306 as typist, full-time probationary with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $36,437.16, effective August 15th, 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gitterelli.
I'll second.
Please. Okay, second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? On the question, I would just like to say that regardless of your comments, frankly, that there are personnel-related matters that have no, my opinion, have no place on the dais and have no place in public. What I mean by that is that sometimes there are things that occur in every organization that we don't want to see happen. This may be one of those.
Could be.
Could be, yeah. So having said that, understand that I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Okay, so thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else on resolution 24619? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 24619 passes. Resolution 24719?
Amend resolution number 135 of the year 2019 to extend the end date of employment for park attendants part-time from August 16th, 2019 to August 30th, 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Gitterelli. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 24719 passes. Resolution 24819?
Amend resolution number 214 of the year 2019 to reflect an accurate public hearing date for the public hearing related to all-terrain vehicles of August 28, 2019, and direct the town clerk to republish the notice in the official newspaper of the town of Rotterdam.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Gitterelli. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 24819 passes. Resolution 24919?
Call for a public hearing to be held on Wednesday, August 28, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kerwin Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2019 for the following purpose. Amend the Code of Town of Rotterdam, Chapter 188, entitled Noise.
Okay, motion, please.
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 24919 passes. Resolution 25019?
Call for a public hearing to be held on Wednesday, August 28, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kerwin Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2019 for the following purpose. Amend the Code of Town of Rotterdam, Chapter 247, entitled Streets and Sidewalks to include Article 11 entitled Snow Emergency.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 250-19 passes. Resolution 251-19.
Adopt the negative declaration dated August 14, 2019 to allow for an amendment to phase number 5 of Helderberg Meadows Planned Residential District, PRD, located at 3379 Gilderland Avenue, which is the portion of the PRD located on the northwest side of Gilderland Avenue. Applicants are requesting the elimination of 58 approved single-family lots to allow for a cluster development of 124 condominium units on a private roadway network. Modification is proposed to include an additional plus or minus 5.52 acres of adjoining lands NF of Joseph Giannetti, tax parcel number 58.19-1-10, currently zoned B1 retail business into the PRD.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay. Who wants it?
Steve.
Steve Signor. Okay.
second.
Second by Mr. Signor.
Thanks.
Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 251-19 passes. Resolution 252-19.
Adopt local law number 13 of the year 2019 for the following purpose: to allow for an amendment to phase number 5 of Helderberg Meadows Planned Residential District, PRD, located at 3379 Gilderland Avenue, which is the portion of the PRD located on the northwest side of Gilderland Avenue. Applicants are requesting the elimination of 58 approved single-family lots to allow for a cluster development of 124 condominium units on a private roadway network. Modification is proposed to include an additional plus or minus 5.52 acres of adjoining lands NF of Joseph Giannetti, tax parcel number 58.19-1-10, currently zoned B1 retail business into the PRD.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion, Mr.
Motion by Mr.
Supervisor.
Christou. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, so resolution 252-19 passes.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we do a consent agenda for items 253-19, 254-19, 255-19, 256-19, 257-19, 258-19, 259-19, and the recently added motion under executive session, under agenda session 260-19.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Christou to have a consent agenda for 253-19 through 260-19. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone have any question, any discussion? Okay, let me, I'm just going to say just a few things. So, number 253 is for us to enter into a municipal agreement, intermunicipal agreement with the town of Princetown to assist each other in times when we need water operators for our water plants. We have a couple of resolutions here that have to do with additional services to ensure repairs to the Rotterdam Senior Center. And just a couple things I'd like to say on our water system very briefly. First of all, as far as supply and demand go, demand is obviously driven by people and business, and we have provided for that over and over again in the town. As far as interconnections go, I can tell you flat out that our administration has done more with interconnections, has done more to improve the water system in the town than has been done in many, many years. We have an interconnection agreement with the city of Schenectady. We have the one with Gilderland. As far as the amount of demand that Gilderland or that any municipality, if we get to the point of selling, as any engineer would know, the DEC is the one that permits that. And the DEC has been involved in every step of the process here between the town of Gilderland and the town of Rotterdam, as well as our engineers on both sides. So to make a claim that there's some issue here with us being able to provide water on an emergency basis or in the future is absolutely incorrect. Furthermore, we have an opportunity now to not only expand our system further But as you know, we're awarded a $5 million grant in low interest loan, which was $3 million grant, $2 million low interest loan. That's one of the reasons why the main reason why the May Avenue tank is going to be rehabilitated. That's the one you see off 890. We have had discussions to put in another well at our water plant as well. So the current well that's there, well 5, and I've said this multiple times, I know, so I apologize, produces 3,000 gallons per minute. The other wells produce thousands of gallons per minute. We're not going to have an issue here. These interconnections also with Gilman interconnections looping through some of our developments and looping to our main roadways between our municipalities, whether we talk about the city of Schenectady or the town of Gilman, will ensure that we have water in our tanks. Will ensure that if we do have a break somewhere in our distribution line, if you will, the transmission line of water along Curry Road or Princetown Road or wherever, we'll still be able to fill the tanks. So that's all I have to say right now. But there'll be more to come along those lines. I don't like there to be misinformation out there for political purposes, and I think that's what we heard here tonight, unfortunately. But, you know, it is what it is. It's that time of year, and we have to accept that. But I will not accept people scaring the public into thinking that we're doing something wrong that could hurt, that could harm, exactly. So that could harm us. So that's all I have to say to that. So we have a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Ms. Miller. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. I'm sorry. I keep thinking Steve because he keeps getting shortchanged in the
Another
seconds.
short joke, is that?
No, shortchanged in the seconds.
All right. I've had 2 tonight already, so.
I don't make those kind of
You started the
those kind
first
of
one.
references or comments.
Ms. Herrera was saying.
So, okay, so we have to vote on the consent agenda, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Marco, would you call the roll for consent agenda?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, so now let's vote on the resolutions. We have resolutions 259 through 26019. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll for that?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
So the first motion was to create the consent agenda, and the second motion was the consent agenda
Right.
approval.
Yeah, I mean, to just make sure that everybody's still in agreement there with that. Okay, anyone have anything under committee reports or miscellaneous this evening?
Mr. Supervisor, I wanted to discuss the website portal.
Yeah.
So it seems like we have language that's probably good to be posted, and we want to go live with that. So we could probably get that live by end of week, if not first of next week. Where residents are able to sign up for town notifications, eventually an email or a newsletter, and even get SMX texts and other notifications pushed out. For instance, maybe a snow emergency, boil water, anything like that.
So it comes as, if you could sign up to make it an SMS message.
Yes, you can subscribe to that. Text message rates may apply.
All right. Thanks
Little
for the
disclaimer there, but yeah, we're just about ready to go with it.
Okay, that's great. So, you can make sure Ms. Miller Herrera is aware of what you're doing next week.
Steve, I've got something when you're ready.
Go ahead.
This is regards to the 2020 committee that we formed to plan out what will be our bicentennial celebration. We've got a pretty good committee, a lot of great ideas, and what we're looking for is actually some more volunteers to help us out. So if you are interested in being a part of that committee, part of our bicentennial committee, one, I'm going to let you know we have our next meeting is tomorrow, which is at 6 o'clock, and we meet, I believe, every second Thursday. Just make sure I got my math right. Every third Thursday, every third Thursday of the month. But if you want to email me at the Rotterdam, on the Rotterdam town email website, or contact the town, and then they'll get a message to me if you're interested in either being on the committee, even if you can't make the meeting tomorrow. We're looking for more volunteers because we have a lot of things we want to do, and we're going to need a lot of help if we're going to make the 2020 celebration really, really special. Thanks.
What time tomorrow?
6 o'clock, I think it said, 6 o'clock.
I wasn't paying close enough.
Well, not like I'm going to be active supervisor.
Anyone else?
So Supervisor, I move for an adjournment.
A second.
Oh, all right, so we have a motion by Mr. Christou, a second by Ms. Miller Herrera. All in favor to adjourn the meeting this evening, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much for coming this evening. The meeting is adjourned.